Welcome to the Female CEO podcast, hosted by Mark Sefton. You may know her name, but do you know her story? This podcast takes you behind the titles and into the moments that shape some of today's most inspiring women. We explore the paths they've taken, the businesses they've built, and how they've created success on their own terms. Created by the Female CEO Create, Evolve, Overcome, these are honest, human conversations, rooted in real experience. Let the journey begin.
Kim, I want to welcome you to the Female CEO podcast. It's great to have you on today's show. As a way of introduction, you're Kim Dang and you're a female CEO representative today. You help people transform their lives. So you're a transformational coach for ambitious leaders. It's great to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. You know, it's the beginning of the year, January. We're only a few weeks in to 2026. People often say, how would you describe 2025 in one word? But I always like to set an intention for the year that we've just entered. So that being said, Kim, if you were to try and embody and capture the nucleus of what you want this year to look like for you, what is the one word that just brings that front and center?
I would need to go with certainty.
And what is it about certainty that's so important to you that you would have it as the nucleus of your year?
Certainty usually comes from clarity, and certainty also is necessary for confidence. So when I'm saying certainty, there's something about to be said for feeling safe, especially in 2026. We've seen 2025 coming in, rolling in with so many changes. And for me, feeling a certain amount of certainty coming from clarity and then leading into confidence is really the game of the play in 2026, I believe, not only for me, but also for everyone else.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, I love clarity as well. I think the unknown is like the worst playground ever.
Well, how else would you train certainty, though, if not in the unknown?
I know, isn't it such an oxymoron, though, where I like knowing. I'd rather it be negative, but me kind of know what is true and me deal with that and move through that than being blindfolded.
I agree. I think being in a state of knowing is one of the most beautiful states, because even if you know you need to file for divorce, even if you know you need to quit the job, even if you know you need to shed 20 pounds for your health, there's something in a knowing that keeps you moving. It's a drive. It's again, certainty, right? Because when you walk down a path and you know exactly where that path leads, after finishing that certain path, then you just keep walking. If you have obstacles in the road, if you have stones in the road, you just keep walking and you don't look back. If you're not certain if that path is the right way, if you don't know that you're on the right way, you keep taking one step and then you look back and you doubt and you think, should I keep going? You maybe wait a little bit. Maybe you even go back 2 steps. You never get anywhere. So the knowing is really a state that is so beautiful. However, I don't think knowing comes from itself, to be honest, Mark. I really think the knowing is something where you need to sit, you need to do the work, the inner work, and that's where you access and when you access the knowing more and more.
And that's why relationship with self is absolutely fundamental, because we have very little control on people and experiences. We can only control the way that we respond to it, as we know. But knowing self, being certain of self, that is where the magic starts, isn't it? That's where the certainty is.
Yes. And I really believe that this is the only way you really feel safe. You know how people say, oh, I need to feel this and that. I need to have a certain amount of money in a bank account. I need other people behave in a certain way in order to feel safe. That's why people get oftentimes upset when people don't respond in the way they expect, and it makes them feel unsafe. However, things are moving all the time around you, and people behave in a certain way that doesn't have anything to do with you. So how can you, especially in a world where everything changes so fast, especially in the time and age of AI and automation and technology, right? It goes back to how safe can you make yourself feel? And that is truly something you need to deal with inside. There's nothing you can do outside. And I sometimes explain it. Do you know Plato, the cave allegory? So I sometimes explain it with the cave allegory, right? So you have, for everyone who doesn't know Plato's cave allegory, the allegory goes like this. You have people tied together on the bottom of a cave. They're sitting there their entire life. What they're seeing is just a wall. And behind them, there are people going in and out, and there's like sunlight coming a little bit through, causing shadows on a wall. So those people who have seen those shadows their entire life, they think this is a real thing. This is the life. And so if you would free those prisoners, they would maybe run for the exit. They would be blinded by the light. They maybe um they maybe catch a glimpse of what had caused the shadows, but they would believe that these things were not true, because for them the shadows are true. So for me, the reality of it, the outside of it, it just informs you. It's a shadow of what's truly going on. But if you really want to shift and really see the real thing, you need to go inside and see what caused the shadows. Does that make sense?
Does make sense. Yeah. It's fascinating. And Kim, obviously you're a transformational coach, right? So you're helping people with reinvention, transformation. And when someone is really looking to reinvent themselves, what do you feel is like the most important thing that they can do for themselves?
Yeah, I think the most important thing you can do for yourself is investing into yourself, believing in yourself, and ultimately betting on yourself. I see so many people, they bet on other people or other things, right? You bet, even if you're investing in an index, stock market, or bonds or options, which is relatively safe, you're still betting on something else. You remove yourself from the money, for example. You bet on a government, you bet on a market. If you work for someone else, you bet on that other person, you bet on your company you're working for. However, if you truly bet on yourself, you invest into your own skill set, into your own growth, into your own path, maybe even into your own company. I'm not saying that everyone has to have their own company, but I do say that everyone needs to be acutely aware of their own capabilities, because that is really your asset. It's not your house, it's not your car. In the end, it's really your capability to deal with the outside, your skill set, maybe a specialized skill set, maybe your joy, your excitement in something. That is all like an indicator what your path could look like. And I think the most important thing in the transformational world is really to start investing into yourself, to bet on yourself, to really put the money and the energy into what you believe in and not what everyone else does.
Yeah, you can see this is where your growth is, and this is why you've achieved what you have. And we're very similar, Kim, in that sense, knowing that, I mean, I'm always really focused on the point of the fact that we have been with ourselves every moment of every day, and we'll continue to be there for ourselves. You can't jump out of your body, even though some of us at times would have liked to, just to given us a break, right? But the reality is none of us escape ourselves. We're with ourselves. We're talking about, firstly, about clarity, and having certainty, which all derives from our ability to know self. And now you're talking again about, we need to bet on ourselves, stop waiting for validation and approval from somewhere else, from someone else. but actually approve of self, that's where it is, isn't it? In terms of the depth of what you've achieved, it's quite clear for me.
Yeah. And I love that you just mentioned the validation part. I think so many people are doing what they're doing for validation. And it's how we were treated as kids, right? Good girl, good boy, like this is what you're supposed to do. You get a pat on the on your head when you behave, you get food. It's a survival mechanism. And growing up, though, means that we detach from our behavior as children or our childlike behavior looking for mommy and daddy, and obviously all people who we project our parents into. We need to detach from the need of their validation in order to really understand, okay, what is it what I really want? What is it what I really want to contribute to the world? And when we do that, suddenly it's interesting because actually the true validation comes exactly when we're going inwards and stop looking for validation outwards. Because if you look for validation outwards, you're always afraid that when you stop performing, that the validation stops, right? But if you truly behave the way you want to behave, truly do what you want to do, then the validation that comes is really authentic. And it's such a great engine for your own growth and for your own drive and for your own, performance. And that's the real performance.
It is. You obviously work with a lot of leaders, like ambitious leaders, people that are creating and wanting to have an impact. How do you go about taking an ambitious leader from, say, fear and doubt and moving them into clarity and momentum? How do you do that?
So I could give you a 3D answer, or I could give you a 4D answer. The 3D obviously is the strategy, right? Like I have my systems, I have my structures, I have my retreats, I have my programs. There is a clear reset process, 8 steps. It's very A to Z. It's very clear what you need to do. That's going from fear and doubt to clarity and certainty to confidence. And then with confidence, a certain decision making that comes with it. And when you are down to knowing how to make decisions, having the courage to make decisions that are maybe not popular, that is when leadership kicks in. That is when people become true leaders, because who would like to follow a leader who waves and winces when, they need to make decisions that are not popular, right? Who would dare to follow someone who doesn't have spine? So that is the 3D answer. There's a clear process of finding your North Star, being really clear, again, certainty, and then training the confidence, trusting into something bigger than you, and then really go into the strategy, asking the right questions, and then letting go is also a part of it. So the 4D answer, that is more like maybe the spiritual answer. The spiritual answer is, and again, I'm going out on a whim that people who listen to this podcast have a certain spiritual practice or believe in something bigger than themselves. But the 4D answer to moving away from fear and doubt into certainty, clarity, and confidence is really by trusting in something bigger than themselves and being able to communicate with that something that is bigger than themselves. You can call it the God of your own understanding or the universe or nature. There's a process I'm walking people through. It's based on the archetype work of Carl Jung. It's based on quantum physics. It's based on particle research. It's based on Andrew Huberman. I really make it very comprehensive to tap into that and really calling on the forces that are bigger than yourself. So that is the 4D answer. It's a little bit maybe more woo-woo for some people, but there's an explanation and scientific evidence for everything. I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, Kim, that I think people are more spiritually hungry than they've ever been. I think there's more an awareness to that. So I think that will land just the way it's supposed to. When you look at people that you're transforming from one paradigm to another, like what's maybe the biggest mistake you see people making when trying to evolve, and how do we avoid making that mistake?
I think the biggest mistake, and I was certainly culpable of that too, is igniting a certain change, really working the soil, planting the seeds, and then thinking you can do it all by yourself. Right? You like invest so much into coaching or training or retreats, and then you go home and think, oh, I know how to do that. Yes, you might know how to do that, but if you would truly know, like the knowing we talked about earlier, you would already be at the place you want it to be. So knowing for me, if it's just intellectual, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't care unless I see results. You know, my methods don't work until they give me tangible results. You can feel wealthy all along within yourself. Unless the money actually hits your bank account, you're not wealthy. You know, it needs to have the 3D and the 4D. So that is the biggest mistake. The arrogance of, I can do it on my own. I read enough books. And so now I know that this doesn't work for me. So I have, even when I'm in a phase of implementation, after learning something, I still have an implementation coach. I still have an implementation community. I still have a mastermind community. Does that make sense?
It does. And if you're helping like a client let go of like maybe an old identity, because I think this is one of the key things with transformation, it's not surface level, it's more deep rooted. If you're helping a client let go of identity, how do you do that without them maybe losing confidence or direction? Because it's all that they're used to. So when you're removing that, like how do you navigate that?
Yeah, I do that really on a deep level in my retreats, because then I have them 4 days in a row from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. And the way I shift or help them shift their identity is really anchoring the new identity in something they already know about themselves. So we really work the moments when they were shining, moments when they were truly leading, moments when they were truly creating magic, the moments when they're truly showing resilience without the complaining and without the resistance. And when I can anchor that in, they don't have to believe, because they know that side of themselves already. And then the shift is just about the focus, right? Do you focus on the sides of you that you don't like, or do you focus on the sides of you that you like? And then focusing on that, the other part dissipates. It's like where attention goes, energy flows. Where attention goes, that is what grows. That is what expands. That is what is getting healthier and healthier. And whatever you don't pay attention to, it will disintegrate. It's like a house. When you don't take care of your house, it will fall apart very quickly.
Makes sense. Before somebody makes a major pivot, before somebody is like, right, I need a change, and do something drastic, is there maybe one question we should be asking ourselves before we do this?
Well, I don't think asking questions in that moment is the right way to start. For me, asking questions comes after being in a good state, a powerful state, being open to receiving any answer, right? So I feel like before you ask the question, you need to prep yourself. You need to go for a run, or like really relax, the meditation, laughing, putting yourself in an open, expanded state is necessary in order to receive a true answer. Because when I ask myself, why am I doing this? This doesn't make sense. Why isn't it not working? That is not, I'm usually in a fearful or doubtful state. And when I'm asking a question, you have to think about your brain like a supercomputer, or like the way you put the question in, the question comes out, right? It's prompting. So if you ask something to your brain, and you're not careful what answer you're looking for, then the answer doesn't help you. If you're in a fearful state and you ask a question, should I do something? Should I change? The answer will always be in a way keeping you safe. The answer will always be no. Are you kidding? Right? You need to be in a state of openness and excitement and in a receiving mode in order to ask the question, should I do that? And then you can really feel in if that is aligned with the body or not. So the question is not the real thing. It's really, when are you asking the question?
Yeah, it's very revealing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting. And I like that you pause. It's one thing I've noticed about you, Kim. You always pause before you answer, which I think, because I feel like your answer comes not from the brain, but from the heart. And so in order to do that, you have to give it a moment.
Sometimes I feel like it's not me who answers. It's really, I'm just facilitating. And I swear, Mark, probably if I re-listen to this podcast, I will probably think, damn, what did I say? Or where did that come from? I'm usually not remembering half of what I'm saying. So this is really funny that you're saying that or noticing it.
I'll say that's okay. It might be a problem in a relationship though, if you don't remember what you said. What makes your approach to reinvention coaching different, and why does it really align with high achievers? Why do people decide, actually, I want to work with you and not somebody else? What do you think that is?
Many people are teaching reinvention or transformation. And I think my credibility really comes from that I live it, I do it. It's my life. I've had 7 careers, not shabby careers. I was a Yale professor in mathematics, as well as a film producer in New York, as well as an actor, someone who ran a film festival. I was a fundraiser. I was a radio speaker, was running a radio station at some point. And so I think my credibility is really because I do what I teach and I teach what I do. So when people come to me, it's because they want to live in the same way I live, and they like me. Something I'm saying resonates with them. And I'm not saying that I'm inventing the wheel in you. I think many people are teaching the same subject. However, the way I teach, the way I explain is my way of explaining and my way of teaching. And for some people that resonates, and for some people it doesn't. So what makes my methods different than others is really me.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And again, it goes down to knowing self, approving of self. I'm just always just struck by the fact that everything derives from that place. Kim, for female CEO listeners, ready for a change, because that's one of the benefits about a new year, isn't it? Is that you have all these gyms that are full in January and then empty in February. But for those who really want change, what's the first step you would have them make if they were listening to this now and be like, you know what? Think about what Kim's saying, conversation about, moving more into, what I was called to do. What's that first step for you?
I don't go as far as Tony Robbins in his UPW event of the Dickens process, but I do a version of it where I really ask them what would happen if you don't change. If you would keep going for another 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, how would you die? Right? Would you die fulfilled? And if the answer is no, then you owe it to yourself to change. And it needs to be very clear that the hurt of not following your own dreams is bigger than staying where you are.
Yes, that's
I
true.
have to say, though, most of my clients are so courageous, and I'm really very grateful that I'm leading so many wonderful and courageous and ambitious and high achieving people. I just think if you have reached a certain level and you had reached that level by being able to read other people, by knowing how to get validation, when you reach that level and it's really painful and you're realizing you need a change, you hit a cap. I think the courage to leap is just a choiceless decision. There's no other choice, really. And yeah, I just am really grateful that so many people, so many individuals have trusted me to lead them jumping off the cliff, basically. And so yeah, I really have to do a little shout out for my clients here.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Now, because this is the Female CEO podcast and it's all about female leadership, female empowerment, I always think it's really good. And I'm fascinated because everyone will answer this differently. And I think it's something that I ask because I feel like as a man, we have a responsibility and an opportunity to really support and encourage and back women in leadership. So as a man, Kim, I would love to know from your personal point of view, what is the best thing that a man can do to help a female leader?
I love the sentence, I take care of me for you, and you take care of you for me. And I think if men take the personal growth as seriously as the women I work with, I think that's the best gift they can give us.
It's beautiful. I love that, Kim. Now, because you are very intuitive and you've already identified yourself as, I guess, a channel for a better word. You say sometimes when you answer these, sometimes you feel like you're not the one who's necessarily conveying. So we've got a few minutes left. I'd love to take these moments just to give you space to be intuitive and to speak from your essence, maybe just with a final thought that we can all take away, especially the female seer audience, to be able to really move through this year with the greatest sense of purpose.
I feel inclined to touch upon a subject right now that is more geared towards women who search for validation. And I know it's very scary sometimes to pull back from that validation and step into your own power. But that own power, first of all, it doesn't mean that you need to be rude or you need to be, cutting people off. It just means that you just are tuning into yourself. You don't even need to be outwards honest or straightforward to other people. I think it means more that you're honest and straightforward to yourself. And it is scary in a way, but it's also so freeing. Once you jump over that hurdle of fear of really taking care of yourself, there is immense freedom. And from that freedom, everything is possible. Because if you look at, for example, the quantum field is the space of all probabilities. And the space of all probabilities really means that it gives you all the possibilities there are. And so if you have the inner freedom, you can choose at any given moment which probability or which possibility you want to take, which path you want to go. There's no, I've never done that, or therefore it doesn't work. There's not, this has never worked, so it won't work in the future. There's never, I've never died, so I will never die kind of thinking, right? So that is really important, to cut the notion of this is how we're doing it, this is how it's always been done, this is how we know to do it. Sentences like, why break something that is working? That is not of your concern anymore if you step into that path, because that path is so much bigger. There's so many more possibilities than you could ever imagine.
I love that. Kim, how do people find out more about you?
drkimdang.com is a good start, or there is Dr. Kim Dang on Instagram, where I really love to share little snippets that come up on a daily basis.
Kim, it's been a really rich, beautiful podcast, as I knew it would be, because you are very eloquent, but you have a depth to you without being too far, as you would call it, woo-woo, too out there. But you definitely garner attention. You have a beautiful authority that isn't loud, but is very clear. If you were in the Lord of the Rings, you'd be one of the elves, I'm sure, in terms of like the wisdom and the governance of.
I don't know what to say, Mark. Thank you so much for saying that. It means a lot.
Yeah, it's really good, Kim. Thank you so much for being on this episode of the Female CEO podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening in.
You've been listening to the Female CEO podcast, created by the Female CEO Create, Evolve, Overcome. This podcast amplifies women's voices, stories, and lived experience. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on our YouTube channel, and discover more at thefemaleceo.com.